Hey guys, it's Emre Can again, and today in this video I'll be showing you the functions, also as known as methods in Java. So this video will be a little bit long and I'll be trying to mention as much as subject in functions on Java. So actually this video will be very fun and you're gonna learn so many things. We're gonna dive deep in functions, but I'm gonna call this subject after this time methods, because there's a difference between functions and methods. So what's the difference? Functions are the line of tasks for a certain task. So if you want to go to the kitchen, you stand up, you walk, and you go to the kitchen, right? But the methods are like the functions but inside a class. So in shortly we can say methods are in-class functions. We can say it like this. We, the developers, are always using the methods in every area of our programs, and it helps us like in various stuff. I have some roadmap to tell you everything about functions, but I just want to make sure you know that we're gonna dive a little bit more deep in the OOP video, okay? So in this video, I'm gonna tell you why should we use methods, type of the methods, ways to create methods, and syntax of a method, how to name the methods, memory allocation for the methods, of course, we should know that, and returning values or returning strings. How can we attach a parameters to a method, and also how the methods are working, like pass by value or pass by reference like C++ or C. And we are gonna go over on scopes, shadowing, variable arguments, overloading, and also in the end recursive methods. Okay, so it will be a really long video. I don't want to hold you more here in the intro. Let's go over to the screen. So I'm gonna create a new class, and this class's name is methods. Let me create the main method first. So first of all, in the right of my screen, you'll see the roadmap again. I'll be showing you in every video in this roadmap, and it gives me the chills, it gives me the excitement and on learning, because we already learned the basic syntax, data types and variables, conditionals, also loops, and now we're gonna learn functions. Then the next video will be about the exception handling. After that, we're gonna go over the beautiful subjects, data structures, OOP interfaces and classes, packages, and also working with files and APIs. But this is a simple subject. Maybe I can just do that before they both. So let me tell you, why are we using all these methods? Why should we choose the methods? There are several advantages to choosing the methods in Java, including like reusability. We can create a method and we can use every area in our program. We don't have to write again and again. And also it helps us to create more readability, and it means it improves the readability. So if you write more readable code, it means you're one more step closer to the senior position. It also helps us about the encapsulation. So what is encapsulation? I'm going to tell you these things on the OOP video, but let me give you a simple meaning of encapsulation. So if you want to create methods, allows you to encapsulate more complex logic and data. You do the encapsulation thing. That's actually the simplest meaning of that. And also it helps us to make it easier to manage and maintain, creating a method for encapsulation. So actually it helps us to improve the modularity. We can see everything in separated modulars. Also it helps us to create more testable code. You can test anything in that function, and you know if something works 100% in that function, it's gonna work every area in your code base that you use that method. So also it helps us to improve the performance of the code, obviously. So that's actually why we use the methods, and let me just give a tick here. So what are the type of methods? So there are two types of methods. First one is predefined and the second one is user defined. What is predefined? Predefined is the methods that already defined. Like if I write here system.out println, as you can see, the println method is already defined here. We don't have to overwrite this method again, or we don't have to write from scratch that method again. Also, let me say, from the integer class, there are so many predefined methods here. You can use any of them without any worryment, okay? So these are the predefined methods. Also, if you define another method here, like let's say voice say hi, this is a user defined method. So that's the type of the methods. Let me go to the other subjects here. I'm just opening my notes to not lose anything. So let me tell you the ways to create a method. So there are two ways of creating a method. First is to create instance methods, And the second is to create the static methods. The instant method is this. If you don't use any static keyword here, you're going to use an instance method. And if you want to create a static method, you should just add the static keyword in the beginning of that method. That makes you create a static method. You should always declare these methods in a class. You can't declare a method outside of a class because it's not an object anymore. As you know, Java is the programming language that everything is an object. So let me start with the syntax of the method. How do you write a method? So what are the syntax? So let me just create a command line here. So first of all, you should write the access modifier, then the return type, then the name, then the parameters, and body. So that's how you should write a method in Java. So what are those terms? Access modifier, I'm gonna telling you more specifically in the OOP video in the next videos, but you don't have to know for now. There are some type of access modifiers like public, private, protected, and default. And the return types are the functions, data types. We can say the functions data types. But as you can see, the return type is right now at here void. It doesn't return anything. If you create a function, or if you say like this one is gonna return a string, we should write here as a string. If you want to return a car, we can write it here, right here, a car. So in the function, we can just say return a, as you can see. Right now, this one is return a car. But if you write here a string, it's gonna be error occurred. Okay, it says say hi, return a Java lang string. Why are you giving me a car? It's just angry on us. But let me just return that a. Then let's go. The other thing is name. So actually the name is there are some rules to name it. I'm just gonna mention that later after this. Name is the function name. You can put whatever you want, but there are some rules and it has to be about what the function is about. Okay, and then the next there are some parentheses here, and inside of it there are parameters. We're gonna mention the parameters in the next stage. Okay, then also this is the body, and as you can see, this is the curly brackets that gives us to see the scopes of this function. So how do you name the function? You should name it with camel case. As I mentioned earlier in my basic syntax video, you can reach that video from the playlist. That was the second video, I think so. The camel case, you should write if there is, let me just write an example again here. One word in a function name, you should write with lowercase. If there are more than one words, you should write the first word as lowercase, but the second word, the first letter of the second word, the next word I mean, you should write the first letter, the capital, okay? Capital letter. Say hi to Emre. Say hi to John. You should write the first letter of the inner words, capital. So that's how you should name the methods in Java. So the next thing is the memory allocation. Let me just tell you about a little bit more technical stuff. So first of all, I'm gonna call this function in the main function. Okay, let me just write here. So let's say let me create a character here. Then I say hi to John. Then I'm just gonna make this like string and gonna change this hi. Also I'm gonna change this data type to string. Greetings, let me just write here greetings. Say hi to John. So what's the problem? Let me see. This is a non-static method and cannot be referenced from a static context. You should add here the static keyword. If you want to reach that one, I'm gonna show you in the OOP video, but you should create a new object from this main class, actually the methods class, called methods. You should write here new methods, and if you want methods, you can just call this like this. Okay, this one is working like that. But if you create a static method, you can just call that method anywhere in that class without creating a new object. And this is actually a good example for the memory allocation. But let me just go the real memory allocation that I want to show you, because as you know, in Java, every object is in stack. Every reference of the objects, they are in the heap. But how is that working with the methods? What are the memory allocation rules in that methods? But right now I'm just calling that the greetings, declaring a variable and initializing with the function. Let me see what's happening here. Okay, hi, this says hi. Okay, so this declared variable right now in a stack of the main function, and now I'm initializing with another function, another method in the class when I'm calling this method. So this method creates another stack in the memory, and it creates, if I write here int a1, it creates their objects in that stack. Everything happens here, and do stuff, then it returned. After it returned, the stack that's been created for that method is going to delete it, is going to remove, or is going to erase from memory. And that's a really cool fact about Java for performance issues. And everything is deleted from the memory. The memory is free again, and it's going to print the line. So that's how the memory allocation works in Java for the methods. If you want to return values like this, return hi, this one returns a string, and also we can return give me a number. Actually, give me this number. Or give me a number. Let me just write a give me a number, and it will give let me just change this to bytes, and it will give me a number which is 1. If I go to the main method again, I'm just gonna call this one again. I'm just gonna call that method here. Right now we did already the return. If we want to return a string from a method, we're just gonna make this. We're gonna write here the return type as a string. We're gonna declare the return type as a string, and we're gonna declare here the return type as a byte or integer or short, or like any numeric primitive data types. We're just gonna write here 1. If you wanna return a value or something here, I mean, like, I just give you an example for the primitive data types in the numeric category, but you can just do anything, any other thing. Okay, let me just take this from here, or can write it here again. So I'm gonna declare integer. This is a number, this is a number, and I'm gonna call this give me a number here. I hope the number is going to be 1 in the line. That's really cool. You can just return a value like this. Also, you can send some parameters to the methods. So as you know, this is a give me a number function. If I add this as a parameter, which is integer, or let me just write here byte, it's better. By the way, I made some wrong thing here. I just declared a variable which is int, and also I used in a byte returned function. That is true, but we shouldn't use it like this. We should make that one as byte. Okay, we should declare that data type as a byte. If you wanna get some space, or some space from the memory, we should write this as byte, declared as a byte. Let's go straight. As I mentioned earlier, I just attach a parameter here which is byte, and wanted number as a parameter name. We can return that parameter, or we can work on that parameter, increase for one time that parameter, and we can return that parameters, and we can just attach the parameters like this. So as you know, as you can see, this is a red line here. So that is, it says there is a problem, because we didn't add any parameter in the method when we are calling the method. So we are gonna just put a byte number. Okay, we can't put 128. This is not also a byte. Okay, we can write here 126. So right now it says you should declare that as a byte. Right now this one looks like an int, because it's a default data type when we are declaring a variable in Java. So we are gonna write here number 2 as 126. Right now everything is good. That's why actually, if you write here, we're gonna get a 127, because we just increase that number for 1, increase that number, and return that number. That's actually another example for parameters in methods at Java. You can also add more than one parameters here, like integer. I don't want this number. You can just write here like 12. As you can see, there is a I don't want this number name here. Here you can see it. You don't have to do anything. It's just IntelliJ IDEA showing us, like, well, what is that number? But it's not showing that one, because we already declared we already declared here. If you write here, as you can see, if I can put that one here, we are gonna see that also, that parameter name here also too. As you can see, you can add any amount of parameters in a function. But of course, for more readability, we should hold the parameter amount in a certain count, right? So that's how the parameters are working. But let me just tell you a really cool technical stuff about the methods in Java. Maybe you already know, but in C++, when we are passing a parameters to the methods, we are passing by reference. What does it mean? It actually helps us to be more free memory. But Java is doing that thing on the backside. And Java is always passing by value, not by reference. You can't pass by reference to the methods in Java. So what do I mean pass by value? Some of us doesn't know, some of us knows. But let me tell you everything about the pass by value thing. In the first time it's kind of a little bit confusing, but don't worry, it's really easy and it's really simple. So let me tell you from an example, okay? Let me write here a code. Now I want to create a swap function, okay? I'm gonna declare it two variable. First one is gonna be 10 and the second one is gonna be 20. As you know, the swap algorithms, if you want to change the value of two items in a swap algorithm, you should create a temp variable. We're going to declare a variable called temp. We are going to initialize the variables of to the temp. So right now temp on A, okay? Temp equals A, and the next E equals B, and the B equals temp. That's how you swap two values. If I just make sure that I'm correct, 20 and 10, 20 and 10, we just swap this thing. But let's see, if I create a method called static void, let me just not return anything on that method, swap, and it's gonna take two arguments, byte A and byte B, and it's gonna return, let me just create a temp again here, and then I'm just gonna give an A value. A is gonna be equal to B, and B gonna be equal to temp. So it's not gonna return anything right now. After this stuff, comment to that lines to see if that works. Call this function, send these two parameters in it. Right now, what I'm gonna see, what is gonna be the output? Just pause the video and think about it. Of course, it's gonna be 10 and 20. It's not gonna swap. So why is that happening? Actually, that's a really cool stuff about Java. I can explain you this in a command line. Okay, so first of all, which stack are we in? Which method scope are we in? In the main method scope, right? This main method scope has a stack and heap, and it holds two objects in it, in the stack, byte A and byte B. These objects referenced to the 10 and 20 values, A 10 and B 20. Right now everything is cool, everything looks crazy, but as you know, as I mentioned earlier, Java is a language for using the methods with pass by value. It's gonna send this value in it and send this value in the function of swap. So in the swap function, Java is gonna create another stack and heap for the swap scope, method scope. If I create a command line here, there is gonna be another two objects in that scope, A and B. So these objects are gonna be 20 and 10. These objects are here and only work in this scope. I'm gonna mention the scopes later in this video, but these objects are only gonna change in this scope, in this heap. After that function worked and it finished, the stack and the heaps are gonna be removed from the memory, and it's gonna come back again here. As you can see, byte A here, byte B here. It's just gonna write their initialized values. So that's how the pass by value is working. I also give documents in the description below. You can just search about it in those documents. That's how the pass by value things works. So in shortly, the real reason you're creating the objects again here in that scope, and that's why actually you don't see the change. But if you want to send an array to an object and modify that array in that object, you're going to see the end result of thing. So if you don't know the arrays, I already told you about in the data types video a little bit about the arrays, but I'm gonna explain more in the data structures. But in shortly, the arrays are the collection of collections of any other data type, primitive data types. Okay, let me just create a array here for a second, and let me show you the pass by value stuff. How does that work? Let me create an int array, just a simple array. Let me just say it's numbers, and I'm gonna attach some number 1 2 3 4. Okay, there are 4 elements in that array. I'm gonna write this array dot toString. I'm just gonna call toString method here, and I'm gonna send this numbers. Okay, let me see what's happening. You don't have to worry about like what's toString, what's arrays class. I'm gonna tell you everything about the data structures videos. We are gonna see so many arrays. You're gonna see so many linked lists. I'm so excited about this. So, and 1 2 3 4 as you can see here, but let's send these values to a function, and that function name is going to be static void modify array, and it's gonna get an integer array, and the arrays first in this is going to be 10. So arrays are reference data types. As I mentioned in the data types video, you can modify an array, but you cannot change an object reference. Okay, it's a really cool fact, and it's hard to understand in the first time, but you should make a practice about this, like me right now. I'm doing that. You'll see the difference. Okay, so let me send modify array the number. So the output will be 10 2 3 4. As you can see here, 10 2 3 4. We modified that array. So that's how you modify the arrays in another method. So let's go over the next subject. It's called scopes. So how the scopes are working. So everything is in scopes. Every time we declare a variable, we should care about which scopes we are in. As you can see, these curly brackets are always showing the scopes. So what are scopes? If you declare a variable here integer x, and let's initialize with 10, we can't use that x here. Okay, it's gonna give us an error. Also, if we create another scope in that thing, we can use that x in here. But if you declare that variable x inside that scope, we can't use that x outside of that scope. Every time we should care where we're gonna declare the variables. So that's actually how you use the scopes in general. As you know, this byte A and byte B variables are only gonna work inside of that method. You can't take this byte A and B or this byte temp and use it here. Okay, it's gonna throw an error. That's illegal. That's actually how the scopes are work in general. So let me tell you things about the shadowing. What is shadowing? Shadowing means if you declare a variable here, you can use that variable inside of thing, right? Inside of the method. That's how we're gonna use that. You should put a static keyword in it. So you can see the method, right? You can see the variable in the main method. So let's see what really is. Does that change? X should be 20. As you can see, it's 20. But if you only declare one more time the x variable here, you're gonna shadow. As you can see, this is now gray. It's not like a pure white. It's a little bit grayish. If you declare one more time that x, you shadow that static declared variable outside of the main method. That's how you shadow some variables. That's actually how the shadowing works. Let's go to the variable arguments. By the way, everything that I told you here, we are gonna go over those in different questions. Okay, we are gonna use those again and again and again. Every time we are gonna use those again, and I'm gonna explain you more clear. Hey, that's why we use shadow. That's why we use the scope based declared variables, blah blah. I'm gonna tell everything. So now let me go over the variable arguments. So what are the variable arguments? Let me create a method here, and I'm gonna ask you a question after that. So I created a method here called varargs, and it's going to take an argument v with triple dot. So it's gonna return, it actually doesn't have to return anything, or yeah, maybe we can, absolutely, yeah, we can return it. Let me return as a int array, or let me just return it as a string. It's easier. Turn arrays to string v, or maybe we can write here like just v, or no, it's not gonna work. Let me just write here arrays dot string v. Yeah, it's better. That's how I'm gonna use that. So what did I do? I just created a method here called varargs, and it's gonna return a string value, and it's gonna return, as you can see, the arrays dot to string. So it means that parameters with the triple dot here before the name, before the v, means you can add as many as parameters. You can pass as many as parameters in that function. So let's go over this. Let's just call that function, put 1 2 3 4, okay, these things, and I'm just gonna call this function in the system out print line. So we're gonna see this array.toString. It means we can, if we don't know how many parameters that we should pass to that function or to that method, we're gonna use this var, these variable arguments. So that's how we're gonna use that. By the way, we can use variable arguments with another predefined arguments also, like num1, num2, and also the another ones. And you can just write here 45, 46. So right now we are just returning the string value, but we can add, I think, like this, or num1, num2 plus num1, and it's going to be string also. Let's see what we're gonna see. I'm just gonna try. As you can see, 46 and 45 is adding the end of the value, end of the return statement. That's actually how we're going to use the variable arguments. If you don't know how many arguments or how many parameters are we going to pass, we're going to use our variable arguments. Okay, so the next thing, only the last two things we have. This video is a little bit long, I know, but I have to tell anything I know, anything I learned when I'm researching those. So this time we're gonna use, we open that and just wanna add this thing inside of that command line. Close this. So the method overloading, we can overload the methods if you're gonna use the same name one more time. We don't have to create another name. We can use the same name and with the different parameters or with the different return type. So what I'm gonna say, as you can see, there is a give me a number function and it takes 2 parameters, but let's say it takes only 1 parameter and it returns that parameter. But we're gonna create another function, another method, give me a number with the same name, but this one is gonna return the number with string, as a string. Okay, so how I'm gonna do that, I'm just gonna add typecast here called string like this, but I'm gonna return that thing also string. Right now it's going to turn string, but I don't have to write the string typecast here. So these are the 2 same name method, and if I call this method, the first method, let's say give me a number with, as you can see, there are 2 options. You can see the advice coming from IntelliJ IDEA, the IDE. We can write the first thing, the byte. Let's declare a variable called num1 and it's gonna be 1 num1. So then let's create another variable which is string 1, and it's gonna be this, like ABC, and this is going to be string 1. Make it an output. As you can see, we can use the same name in a different variable type or string or return type. We also can do the byte thing. Also, we can use the same return type but with different parameters, or we can add like this. We can make this one also byte1 number, but we can add another parameter in the second function. We can do anything we want. That's how we use the method overloading. So the last thing that we are going to use in maybe millions times next videos, recursive methods. How are we gonna use recursive methods? How are we gonna do that? It's actually really simple, but sometimes it gets more confusing. I'm gonna create a question, right? Create a question. Sum every number from 1 to 10. You can sum these numbers with four iteration, right? For loop. You can just write 0 and the 10 here equals 10. Make a variable like from 0 byte total. You can add total every time the e. So what's gonna do? So it's going to be 55, right? Every time, let's say the variable is 0, total plus 0 is going to be 0. Total plus 1, 0 plus 1 is going to be 0 plus 1. It means 1. Total plus 2 is going to be 1 plus 2. I mean, it's going to sum every number with for loop. But also we can do that for more readability with recursive functions. So according to question, we should sum every number from 1 to 10, right? You can do it like as I mentioned earlier with the for loops or another loop, but we are going to use the recursive functions. How do you use that recursive function? So for recursive, let me just write a function here. As you can see, I just write a recursive function here. It has a name, which is sum. It got two parameters, start and end, which is they are going to be 1 and 10. And it's taking the end number, which is 10. If 10 is greater than 1, return 10 plus, one more time, the recursive function, but 1 and 9. The next time, it's going to check that 9 is greater than 1, put 9 plus, return 9 plus the same function again, 1 and 8. It's going to call itself every time. So what I'm gonna do here, let me just write here in target start, which is actually we can just put it like a result here in sum 5 to 10, not actually 5 to 10, 1 to 10, and we're gonna write the solution. We're gonna write the result at here. Let's see what's happening. We are getting the same number. So how is that working actually? I already told you, but it's really actually hard to understand in the first time when we see the recursive methods or functions, however you say. But it's taking the 1 and the 10 number, and every time the end number is decreasing for 1. The first call is getting 10. The second one is getting 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and it's checking 1 greater than 1. It's not. Okay, you can just write 1 and you can just get out of that method. You'll see every time the result is changing. It's taking the total of the last value of and plus summarize. So that's actually how it works, the recursive functions. I hope, by the way, before I finish the recursive functions, I gotta tell you the recursive functions has halting functions. What halting function is? The function that stops the recursive algorithms. In that case, this thing doesn't call any recursive function, right? This thing doesn't have the sum blah blah. It means it's going to get out of that function and going to the result. That's what halting function is. If they ask you, just tell them the function that helps to getting out of recursive functions, right? So I hope this video is a little bit helpful for you, and it's going to help you on the functions in Java. This is one of the greatest video that I record in this playlist actually, but the next one is gonna be really cool. Mostly this video has the technical part, but I'm really excited to solve some questions about these things. So I hope you like this video. If you like this video, just please don't forget to like and make and subscribe to the channel. If you have some question, you can just ask in the comments. We can just search with you, and because I'm learning with you guys. Okay, everything is here. In the next video we're gonna talk about the exception handling and maybe working with files and APIs. Who knows? We'll see. Thank you again, guys. Goodbye.